Hey guys, this is James from TeaDB. Hope you all are having an amazing tea day. Bringing you another Inbetweenisode here. So today, unfortunately, I am bringing on a tea. I was trying to come up with something that was available, a ripe to the west, but right now there's nothing that I'm super comfortable reviewing and giving a rating. So instead, I'm bringing on one of my daily drinkers. Definitely a tea I've already finished 300 grams of, and I have another 300 grams. So I picked this tea up when I was in Hong Kong last year, so 2017 spring. It's a ripe tea. It's inexpensive. I forget what it was exactly, but it was under 10 cents a gram, so really inexpensive. It's a traditionally stored loose ripe. It's a little over 10 years old, and I tried it in the shop before I bought it, and I brought 600 grams to take back home just because I like the tea, and it was the price was right. Yeah, it's traditionally stored. So as some of you know, this is how I tend to drink a lot of the ripe teas that get consumed in the house. I drink it in this big pot, dump somewhere between 8 to 10 grams. I think there's 9 grams if I remember correctly in here, and then I'll make a mug for my wife, and I'll drink some of it myself, and then throughout the day maybe I'll make another infusion or two. Each infusion makes more than a cup here, so in true casual fashion, stacking a couple brews here. This is probably the 7th or the 8th brew, so sort of as a result, the tea doesn't have too much of an aroma left to it, and I brewed these, I don't know, for 30 seconds or something like that. So it's a pretty casual form of brewing. Ripe tea, I think, lends itself to be brewed in that way. And the tea has been lightly traditionally stored, and I think you can sort of tell from the aroma, it sort of has this sort of herbally, ginsengy aroma to it that tastes, that definitely is a different sort of aroma than you would get from like typical ripe tea, whether we're talking about ripe tea that has just undergone the fermentation process or one that's been aired out and is pretty much ready to drink. So it smells different from both of those. It smells a lot like sort of like naturally fermented raw pu'erh, or things that have undergone this sort of like wetter, more traditional storage. And the tea is clean tasting, to be clear. It's stored in that way, and then they'll sort of air it out and store it in a drier environment for a while to clean up the taste. As you can see from the color, it brews quite dark. It's actually brewing even darker than this earlier. So this is, for my going colorblind sight, this is almost black, very, very, very dark red. And yeah, here we go. Cheers. Tea is very thick, it's very soft, it's very ginsengy. I was just drinking some raw pu'erh, so the contrasts of the two teas really stand out. This is really soft, it's really easy to drink, there's nothing rough about it. I personally enjoy that sort of ginseng herbal type taste to these teas. I think it's really easy to drink, and I also don't mind having it pretty much immediately after a meal. Very easy to brew this tea. Definitely sort of has that wet wood taste to it. I feel like a lot of people use that a little bit disparagingly towards these sorts of teas, but I dig it. I personally am a fan. I think I tend to be on the more forgiving end towards wetter stored teas compared to the average Western drinker, many of which find it off-putting, or some that are a little bit more middling on it. For me, I like this taste. I think this taste is hard to beat, and it's different than Lumber Slut, white tea's Lumber Slut, but it sort of occupies a similar category for me. Teas that are just like punchy to the point as far as ripe pu'erh. Their profile might not be for everyone, but for the person who really likes it, that sort of like dark, deep profile, then for me, these teas tend to be a big hit. They're not delicate. There's nothing elegant about these teas, but they are straight to the point, and I think they taste quite good. Cheers. And when I asked the person selling me this tea what it was, he's like, yeah, it's a little over 10 years old. It's some sort of a ripe blend. So I guess there's sort of a mix of materials in there. And it's one that, I clearly enjoy drinking. It passes the speed test very well. It's one that I'll drink with my wife pretty often in the mornings, especially when I'm drinking a fair amount of ripe with her, because I think I like it a lot more than your average ripe tea. Cheers. Soft, thick. And yeah, I would encourage anyone that hasn't tried these sorts of teas to try a wetter stored ripe to see how you like it. I think Yunnan Sourcing probably sells a couple. White to Tea used to sell a 7572 that really fit the profile and was really like creamy and milky and really tasty. This one, it's not totally in that creamy category, but I could see it sort of veering that direction during certain points. It's more to me right now in the ginseng, woody sort of nature towards it. It doesn't have like a booming aftertaste or anything. It just sort of like lightly coats the mouth. And there's no chi or anything like that to it. This is a tea that you mainly drink because you like to drink it, rather than for any sort of unique body feel or anything like that. And I'm going to give this tea a 6.7. Importantly, this is on the ripe Pu'erh scale, so I'm comparing it versus ripes. I'm not comparing it versus raws, like the Yongqing Hao teas I brought on. So that's something. It has some nice characteristics that make it pretty nice to drink at times. Oh, actually, I gave this a 6.8. Sorry. I'm not really sure of the extreme difference of a 6.7 or 6.8, but 6.8 is a little bit better, I suppose. So it's a tea that has some special characteristics, but really it's one. It's a good example of a tea I just like to drink. It's not super complex, but it's tasty. I can drink it casually. I can also enjoy it, and it's good enough that I would brew this for some of my tea buddies too. It probably wouldn't be the highlight of a session, but it's good enough that I think it's worth sharing, especially if you sort of like this wetter stored profile. The price is right for this tea, and I'm going to keep enjoying it. So thank you all for tuning in. Let me know how you like this video in the comments below. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you all next time.